the man who led the small northwestern Minnesota town to be called an All-American city in 1996.
This last week, Clem died, and today hundreds in Fosston attended his funeral. Our story tonight from WDAY 6 reporter Chris Kalla.
A blanket of mist met a procession of mourners outside King O Lutheran Church in Fosston today. This town's final farewell to its favorite son, 81 years spent making a name for himself and a name for this North Country town.
He's probably going to leave the biggest print of anybody that's lived in Fosston for years and years.
Arvid Clementson, Clem to his friends, was the town's resident painter, their favorite politician, jokester, and friend. Mayor for 34 years, Clem Clementson was one of Minnesota's longest-serving mayors ever since the election of November 1972.
I don't think he's ever lost since, because we've never had a mayor that has done what he's done.
Such a character was Clem, always ready with a quip or a story.
He just was such a funny guy.
That Clem even helped create a Northwoods legend. Part of his plan to help bring more visitors to see the sites where the pines meet the prairie.
He started the legend of Corwood Pete, that he was Paul Bunyan's younger brother, you know, and it went over big.
Not to mention his role as the consummate politician. Clem just happened to be buddies with some of the biggest names in Minnesota politics. Names like Fritz Mondale, Hubert Humphrey, and Roger Moe.
There's not a lot of people that you can say, well, he did this, he did that, and but Arvid did.
I mean, you name it, he could do it. He was an incredible guy.
A Tuesday morning, mourning the loss of their mayor, their mascot, their favorite Norwegian son. Laid to rest today after 81 years as Fosston's town treasure.
The whole town will miss him. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
Chris Kalla, WDAY 6 News.
Clementson was in the midst of another re-election campaign. He'll still be on the ballot in November, and folks in town say they'll vote for Clem one last time. If he wins, the town's council will appoint a new mayor.
Fosston, Minnesota said goodbye today to 81-year-old Arvid Clementson.
Clementson was the mayor of Fosston for more than 3 decades, but died last week. He was running for re-election. Reporter Lauren Heflin was at the mayor's funeral in Fosston and has that story in tonight's Fox Focus.
To the tiny Minnesota town of Fosston, Arvid Clementson will always be remembered for his faithful public service.
Arvid was passionate about Fosston. He believed in the community and what its residents could achieve.
First elected in 1966, Clementson served as mayor of Fosston for 32 of the past 40 years.
Fosston was so dear to his heart, and you know, there wasn't a thing he wouldn't do for the city if it was in his power to do it with joy.
Thanks to his leadership, the town is now covered in Clemenson's fingerprints. Boasting a civic center, library, and art center, among others, he also earned numerous awards and recognition for his service in delegate and volunteer capacities, and worked hard to promote tourism in Fosston.
There was a huge reason for Dad's success, for his wonderful attitude and for his perseverance. And that reason is our mom.
But as faithful as he was to the town, Clementson was just as devoted to his family. He loved to laugh and celebrate family traditions. His daughter says his leadership at home spilled over into the community.
If we would try something and it didn't work out, we were encouraged to move forward and either try it again or try something else. His positive attitude was infectious.
Now, Clementson leaves a legacy of relentless dedication to finding new ways of making dreams come true.
And I hope whoever replaces him will take note of his leadership and see that, you know, it would be worth copying if you had to do it, because it was so good.
In Fosston, Minnesota, Lauren Heflin, Fox News.
In addition to being mayor, Clementson worked for the Postal Service and sold industrial chemicals.
Fosston, Minnesota residents remember their longtime mayor who passed away last week. Hello again, thanks for joining us. I'm Lisa Vidot. For more than 30 years, people in Fosston, Minnesota say their mayor took care of the town and helped them grow. Mayor Arvid Clementson died Thursday of complications from congestive heart failure. He was 81 years old and running for re-election. KX4's Shirlene Richards has more on his legacy in tonight's top story.
he was a great mayor.
Arvid Clementson began his lifelong leadership in Fosston in 1967 and spent more than 30 years making the small town a better community.
He worked for the people, and it was what the people wanted. He could see that. It wasn't his vision alone, it was everybody, and he just saw to it that that would happen.
Clementson started his job as mayor by securing grants for several projects in the city, including downtown renovation and a new water tower.
When you think of a great leader, I think of someone who inspires others to do well, and that's what he was. He was a great leader.
But Clementson didn't sit back and wait for changes to happen. He took on one task after another, helping the town earn several titles, including Minnesota Star City in 1986, All-American City in 1996, and Millennium City in 2001.
He really just went to bat for the things that are important to a good quality of life, and he was just passionate about it.
Many of Clemenson's projects, improvements, and inspirations can be seen across the town. He invented the legend of Cordwood Pete, Paul Bunyan's little brother. Since then, Cordwood Pete has become a tourist symbol of Fosston.
You know, a lot of people said, how can anybody want to be a mayor for 34 years? I mean, it's a thankless job, and you know, he just loved it so much that he just couldn't quit.
Friends and family say the town will only grow from here as Clemenson's visions will live on for years to come. In Fosston, Shirlene Richards, KX4 News.
Clementson served as Fosston mayor from 1966 to 1976, and then from 1980 until this year. He was running for re-election this year. The city administrator says the council will appoint a new mayor if Clementson is re-elected. His funeral will be held Tuesday at 11 a.m. in Fosston, Minnesota.